Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about Awakening and all the Nullfist slash Warbreaker magic system stuff. So I'm going to approach this topic as if you know at least a little bit about it. If you've either listened to my original review or the recent read along, then I kind of gave a bit of an amount, like a solid amount of explanation for this magic system. So I'm going to kind of explain it as though you at least have like a basic understanding of it. So if it's not overly thorough in the way that you would like, I'm sorry. So this video though, I really do want to just kind of give a rundown of the magic, how it works, and some of the unique things about it. And I want to give one of my theories about one of the scenarios in Warbreaker, essentially. So yeah, with that being said, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and let's begin. So, Awakening, as an invested art slash a magic system of the Cosmere, I think it's really interesting because it kind of works in this unique way compared to many other magic systems that we've come across in the Cosmere. So this one has a fuel source, which is investiture, like all other magic systems in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. This one uses a type of investiture called breath, which is very interesting in the way that it exists in the society, in the world itself. So essentially, a breath is like, well, piece of your soul. I think the composition of both a soul and a breath are so similar that it's very hard to distinguish. But I think like you have your intact soul with your spirit web, and then on top of that, at least if you're from Nalthus, you have an extra breath, which is basically just a little bit more investiture than other entities have in the rest of the wider universe. So that extra piece can be gifted away to someone else, or it can be used to awaken an object or a corpse or something like that. So one of the first examples we see is of Kelsier using a straw figure to go and get keys in order to release him from prison. Did I say Kelsier? Vasher. So Vasher does this. He imbues this item that looks similar to the form of a human, because that's one of the laws. The closer the thing looks like a human, the easier it'll be to awaken it. So essentially, he uses that to go and get keys. He animates it like it becomes a little puppet. He brings it to life. So that's kind of the general crux of the magic system. Using this internal magic that you have, a breath, or using a multitude of breaths that you've gathered from other people, you can use that to give a command to an object, and it will wake up and carry out that command. But one of the cooler things about this magic system is not only will that breath be taken from you in order to power the item that you want to wake up, but in order to fuel the mechanics of it or something, the process leaches color from a nearby object. So this is one of those very, very unique properties that's unique to the Nalthus magic system, or at least it is so far. Brandon hasn't done anything really like this with anything else yet. So when an awakener awakens an object, they imbue it with a breath, they give it a command, a clear command in their native language, and when the object accepts the command and starts to wake up, it leaches color from a nearby source. So that's essentially how it works on this planet. But the more of those breaths you have, the more of a physical difference it makes. It eventually you become ageless and immune from disease, and you have enhanced life sense, and you have all these extra like passive abilities on top of you being able to use awakening. So you eventually get to this place where you're closer to the divinity. You're closer to the god, the shard that runs this world, essentially. So different commands require different numbers of breaths, and I think that it really has to do with the perception of the way the command is to be carried out, because intent is very important in this in this magic system. So you have to have a clear idea of what you want this command to mean and how the object wants, you want the object to carry it out. So that's very important. Also, the further away from a thing is to a human form. So versus a doll made of straw that looks like a person, will probably going to take a few breaths, versus a rope that doesn't have any form to it will take like a dozen breaths or something like that. So the further it is away from the human form or organic form, then the more difficult it is to awaken and the more breaths that it require. So it requires thousands of breaths to get to the level where you're capable of awakening things like stone and steel. So that is one of the main cruxes of the mystery of Warbreaker. There's a lot of history about who discovered that kind of stuff, who has used it, and what it all means and that stuff. So there's a lot of mysteries tied around those concepts. And one of the biggest mysteries is Nightblood. Nightblood is a sword that is alive. He is sentient or sapient, I forget which is which. And well, it or they or whatever, it's non-gendered, but it also sometimes has a preferred gender. It's a really interesting idea. So just in general, this idea of Nightblood is clearly a mimicry of what a shard blade is on Roshar. So, what we know, with the little bit of information that we have about Nightblood, we kind of get from words of Brandon, where Brandon kind of will tell his fans, some different information based on questions and stuff that people will ask. So, what we know about Nightblood is that he is patterned after a shard blade from Roshar. So the five scholars, some of the original awakened, some of the original returned on Nulphus. At some point, at least one of them or two of them traveled to Roshar, saw shard blades, and was inspired, and came back over here and did a whole bunch, or came back over to Nulphus and did a whole bunch of research about awakening and breaths and about how all of that kind of stuff works. So I have a theory about that. So I hope my general explanation of the magic made some sort of sense, at least enough for this theory to make sense. So my theory, honestly, is that Vasher and his wife went to Roshar, or any number of the five scholars, but at least Vasher and Shashara. They went there, learned about Stormlight, learned about this free investiture that's literally falling from the sky, and learned about shard blades and stuff and how powerful they were. So I think at some point on that trip, they realized that you can use Stormlight similar to the way they use breaths. So they figured out the process by which they can use Stormlight to survive as a return, because as a return, you need to consume a breath every week in order to remain alive. So they at some point figured out how Stormlight could be used for that same thing. And I think in the same process, they would also have to then learn how to use Awakening through Stormlight. Or there's this other idea that I have that, so what if when a Nulthian, an Awakener from Nulthus imbibes Stormlight on Roshar, what if their body and their identity and the way it all works within that person being from the other planet and stuff, what if that automatically rekeys the investiture to become recognizable as breath? Because it needs to adapt to their identity and all of that kind of stuff. All those big Cosmere realmatic kind of theories and terms. So if it has to key itself to them to be in them, to be a part of them, to sustain them as returned, then I would imagine that it has to either convert to something like breaths, or take on a property of breaths, or they learned how to make use of Stormlight similar to breaths. Either way, my entire point is that they would be able to then use Stormlight to awaken objects. And we know when the five scholars came back, they did all their experiments, they all had a ridiculous number of breaths, 50,000 plus. So when they got back to Nulthus, clearly they had a lot of breaths. And I think it's a stretch to think that they would have been able to gather that many breaths from people. I don't know, even in the Council of Gods, they have citizens that will volunteer their breaths and give their breaths and stuff. But just the sheer number that they had, I think the most likely explanation is that it's converted Stormlight. See, if the source of investiture they used to conduct all of their experiments, learning about the one breath lifeless command and Ichor alcohol and just all these other commands that they learned and how to awaken a sword, I would imagine they had a lot of breath to work with. And they probably wouldn't have been able to get it from people that easily. And it probably would have felt a little icky to try to get it from all those people just to play around and experiment. So I think the cleanest, nicest, most humane way is to think that they, when they came back from Roshar, they had what was Stormlight inside of them, and their identity and their perception and all that stuff keyed that investiture to change it to breaths so that it will work for them on Malthus. And I think that is how they were able to awaken Nightblood, by using a bunch of Stormlight, which might also be why Nightblood is so unique in the way that he is, or it is. Because to me, Nightblood comes across very much more like a Spren on Roshar than any kind of, well, I guess probably like a Seon too from Cell. But he really reminds me, or they really remind me of a freaking Spren from Roshar. So I wonder if that investiture being technically like of honor cultivation and like kind of thing, but still getting transferred to breaths and used in that way, would still have some of that, Spren energy, and would give him give Nightblood the amount of personality that it has. Like I can see that being a thing, but I've seen on like Facebook groups and stuff like that, a lot of people don't agree with it because they think the conversion tactic of Stormlight to breaths is going to be a lot more complicated than just needing a person from a specific planet whose body will naturally convert it, and therefore technically allow it to be transferred planet to planet. But at that point, to me, I think that wouldn't count as transferring it planet to planet. That's kind of a loophole of the traveling planet to planet. Because as far as we know, the people that are trying to move Stormlight planet to planet don't know anything about Nalthus. Is that true? I don't think they do. I don't really think, like, do the Ghost Bloods or anybody like that? I don't know. But now this is the point where I'm going to get really, really rambly, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up really quick. But if you all know of any other, like, secret society on Roshar that knows about Nalthus and I'm just not thinking about it, let me know about that. And what do you all think about this theory? Do you think that the 5 scholars got their wealth of investiture by getting Stormlight from Roshar and then coming back and it having converted inside their bodies? What do you think about that theory? Let me know about that in comments down below. So yeah, as always, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to you all next time. Peace.